Hi, it's Eileen Glotfelty. I'm actually talking to you from my own home this time. Normally I'm traveling here or there, wherever, visiting my kids, but one of mine is actually up here visiting me, so on a rare occasion now I'm home. But it seems like God always does something with me whenever I'm traveling. I don't know if it's because I'm more vulnerable, because I'm not in my own comfort zone. I don't know what it is, but it seems like he inspires me and he walks me through like some pretty big things while I'm out of my own place. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. I've been getting challenged with some major fears in my life that have been strongholds for years, and I would like to speak to you today about one of them. And I wrote about it, of course, and the title of this one is called Faith in the Midst of Fear. And it started whenever I was at my daughter's and I was sitting outside watching my grandchildren play, and they're 5 and 6 years old. And they love to spin in circles. If, as a kid, you might remember that too. It was just, I don't know, it was like a simple pleasure we used to have. We would just spin and spin and spin until we would get so dizzy, we would fall over and we'd be laughing, and we thought it was great. Well, that was okay for me then, but then something happened in my life that started a fear deep down inside of me about getting dizzy. And I've carried that around for a long time. And thankfully over the years I didn't have it bother me too much, but recently, I guess started about 2 months ago, I started getting vertigo. And I'll tell you what, every demon in hell rose up and was just pulling on my strings, pushing those triggers, just bringing that old fear back to life again. So I didn't know what to do, and so I just basically just let it torment me. And I honestly didn't, I wanted it to stop. I kept praying and crying out to God, to heal me, make it stop, but it didn't. So I ended up going to the doctor, and then I also talked to my son and my daughter-in-law, who were also doctors, and each one of them said the same thing to me, that it probably was a condition of the inner ear that can happen, especially as you get older. And there's a certain maneuver you can do where you move your head around in certain ways, and it'll offset that thing, and most people were fine. Well, the only problem was, my son sent me a YouTube video, so I watched it, and the only problem with that thing was that while you're doing that maneuver, it can bring the vertigo on, and it can be pretty intense. And as soon as I read that, I thought, nope, I'm not taking that chance. I was terrified. But then I still continued on getting vertigo every morning when I went to get out of bed. So here we go. I'm trying to deal with this thing, and I'm still at my daughter's. And as I watched my granddaughters spinning and playing, I realized that the root of what I was experiencing, the root of this fear, was my fear of actually losing control. And when you have vertigo like that, to me, that's a big sign of you're not in control. You can't, there's nothing you can really do about it. You just have to wait and let it pass. So I'm at my daughter's, and weekend came. It was Sunday, and I decided I was going to go to church with her. And at her church, they have a room set aside just for prayer, and it runs the whole morning during the services. And I thought, I have to go in there because this is just messing me up so bad. My anxiety level was like off the roof. So I went in there, and a lady came over to me, and so we sat down and talked. And I proceeded to tell her, I wanted prayer for this anxiety and all. But then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to tell her exactly what it is. I was a little embarrassed maybe, but I thought, well, it is what it is. So I told her, I said, I have this fear of vertigo, and this is what's happening. And I was told I need to do this certain maneuver, but I'm afraid. And she looked at me and she said, oh, I had that done. And I said, what? Really? She said, yeah. I said, well, who did it? She says, my doctor did it for me. I said, did it work? She goes, yeah, I'm fine. And it was then I looked at her name tag, and her name was Hope. So I started crying a little bit because I just knew God just met me right there where I was. So I left there that day, and a couple days went by, and still didn't do the maneuver, still fighting with myself over it. And then I had my counseling appointment, with Andrea. And in the course of I was telling her the story, and she said to me, "Oh, I did that for my husband. He had vertigo." Well, then I knew. I thought, okay, Lord, what more do you got to do besides hit me upside my head? So I got off the phone with her, and I decided I have to do this. So I positioned everything the way I was supposed to. You're supposed to put a pillow down on the bed, and so that when you lean, you have to lean backwards, and the pillow should be right behind your shoulder, so your head's hanging over the back. Anyway, it's called the Epley maneuver if you want to look it up. Anyway, so, I positioned everything, and I got on the bed and I sat there, and I'm telling you, I wish there would have been a video camera on me because it was pretty ridiculous. I sat there and I would lean halfway back, and then I'd get afraid and I'd hurry up and sit up. And then I'd lean halfway back again, hurry up and sit up, because I was afraid the vertigo was going to start. So I eventually just got off the bed and went and sat in a chair, and I was so disgusted with myself. And I said, "Lord, I need your courage. I need you to give me courage because, I'm terrified." And I got up, sat down on the bed, and next thing I know, I was leaning backwards, and I started doing the repositioning of my head, and it wasn't too bad until I did the last part of it. And when I turned all the way over like you're supposed to, the vertigo hit me big time. And I just felt the terror just rising up within me. And I felt the Lord say to me, "Stay right where you are. Don't move. Don't get up. It's going to pass." Because my instinct was to run. And he said, "Stay where you are. It's going to pass. It's going to pass." It did. I sat up to a sitting position. And from that point on, that vertigo was gone. So then I come home, and I've been having some sinus issues and whatever. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, I went to get up in the morning, and the vertigo was back in force again. And I was, very discouraged. But I knew it was different. It wasn't the same vertigo that I'd had. It was on a totally different side. I felt it was related to what was going on with my sinuses. But what got me was, God healed me of that vertigo that first time. He showed me what to do, and he showed me that I had to push through that. He wasn't just going to take it away. He doesn't always do that. I mean, we all know that. And sometimes he helps us to face our fears and walk through them. And what came to me now that this happened again was the fact that I didn't get rid of the root of that fear. I did what I needed to do, and it subsided and all, and it went, but that root was still there. And it's so important that we get to the root of these things, because otherwise that fear will just continue to control us. And for me, it was a stronghold. So I started looking, reading some in the Word, and I'm not the best student, I'll tell you that much. It's not like I can quote you, a million scriptures. I do know some. But God took me to Isaiah 43, and it was about, "Fear not, for I've redeemed you. I've called you by your name. You are mine." And that just stuck out to me. And then he talks about walking through the waters with us, and he won't let them rise above our heads, and we'll walk through the fire and we will not be burned. I mean, we may feel the heat, but we are not going to come out of that burned. And as you read down, what spoke to me most of all, because I've had a hard time most of my life believing that I'm loved just for me. But God says in his word, he says, "You are precious and honored in my sight, and I love you." And that's why he brings us through these things. That's why he makes us walk through these things, because he knows that we're going to put our dependence on him, and that we're trusting him. And no matter what that looks like for you to walk through your fear, it's so necessary for me too. I mean, I'm still struggling. That really shook me up, I guess I should say. And no sooner was that one, that was kind of getting behind me, another stronghold rose up. And I knew he's answering my prayers, all these prayers that I've been praying for years about, I want to walk in freedom, but it takes our taking that step and trusting him, even if we don't understand why he wants us to walk in that direction. So my prayer is for you that you could just sit with him quietly. Go to it was Isaiah 43. Well, the Psalms also, there's a lot in there too about dealing with your fears, but go to Isaiah 43. Read that beginning of that first chapter and hang on to that with all that you have, because he is with you and you are his. Have a blessed day.